This is Barry Funfar from Falmouth, and your wife just said you're 64 years old.
I've been calling myself 65 for a while. Next month is my 65th birthday. So.
Okay. How far away from, you live near the Turbine 1? Is that right?
Well, Turbine 1 and Turbine 2. Turbine 2 is to turn on in early October.
Yeah.
But Turbine 1 we are 1,662 feet from, and Turbine 2, 1,558 feet.
And you're west of the turbines, is that right?
We would be almost directly west.
Okay. So can you describe what your experiences and symptoms have been in terms of your, physical and mental experiences since the Turbine 1 went on? That was in March 2010?
Well, I believe March 26th is when it first turned, and it was just 1 or 2 days in March, and then in April is when it went full swing.
Okay.
Wind 1, and it really has been. It didn't start out where my symptoms were immediately what they are now. As devastating as they are now. It's something that, like, for instance, the first month, I thought I would get used to it. I tried to make a concerted effort to actually get used to it, and this will be okay. But I ended up going into a depression by trying to do that, and I just couldn't take it. And as time has gone on, it has just gotten worse and worse. And then I've read a couple of places to confirm, my observations in myself, that, in a way, it makes me feel like I'm not crazy, I guess, or I'm, not going crazy on my own volition or whatever. It's, there are some of the medical research being done is showing that that's just what occurs, is that as your exposure lengthens, your symptoms increase in severity, and I've certainly found that to be the case.
So depression.
Well, it leads, in me, it has certainly led to depression and even suicidal tendencies. And starting with like stress and anxiety, and it's not easy to talk about, really.
Yeah.
But starting with the stress and anxiety, and it feels like, I call it like an anxiety center in my chest. And it feels like, it's just like something's moving around in there or something.
In your chest?
In my chest. And oftentimes I have my wife, I'll ask her to rub my anxiety center, and I get some comfort out of that. But it is just about all the time now that's occurring, unless we get away for some days, and it's almost amazing how quickly I can feel better when we leave. And and that's why I can so hook up my problems, and accuse the turbine directly.
But at first, did they have to be going for you to get
Well,
symptoms?
I think so. It took, like, this is in the 18th month now, and it took some time to get to this point. And then there are so many letters, like to the our local paper, the Enterprise, where I know that people just don't understand that, the problem, my problem and other people's problems, worsens over time. And so they'll go, and someone recently camped out by the turbine for a couple of nights, I guess it was, and says, "Oh, it doesn't bother me, are these people making this all up?" And it's very disheartening, and it's like, because I know I know how bad it can be, and I also have tremendous empathy for other people I know in town who, there's a couple I know who also have suicidal tendencies,
Mm-hmm.
and I know how bad that feels.
So you get this feeling in your chest, but each time you go away, how far away do you have to be for it to stop?
I can cross the bridge and feel better.
Yeah, in Bourne.
Right, just crossing the Cape Cod Canal,
So like-
and just to know I'm going and getting away from the thing is
Mhm.
relief.
Mm-hmm. So like 20 miles away.
To get it out of sight, and you know, my wife knows that too when we've gone on trips.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I've also had some of our trips have been where I get too involved on the internet with
Mhm.
people back home, or depending on you know, what's going on back in Falmouth and
Mhm.
how involved I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I can get too bound up in it and pretty much ruin a time away
Mm-hmm.
also, but not really with, it isn't the same like vibrating chest kind of thing. It's just an obsession that I have really with having to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Would your heart start going fast in that situation too if you were away but working on things?
Not, I don't think so necessarily, but it's just that it's like something in me, it's like I just want to or have to or I need to put my time into that rather than go to see a show on a cruise ship or something like that. It's like I'll tell my wife, oh, you go on. Oftentimes we're with friends on a cruise and, you know, and got something to work on. So
Mm-hmm. Have you had headaches?
I do, and much more in recent time, in recent weeks,
Mm-hmm.
the last couple of months. I didn't at first,
Mm-hmm.
but that is one of the symptoms, I guess, that has increased quite a lot in recent time.
Can you describe what your headaches are like?
Well, it would be, I guess, frontal lobe type.
Further up here?
Right. But more than that, you know, I heard when you asked my wife about migraines, and I do have a pseudo-type migraine, a hereditary thing in my family, something called spectra fortification,
Mm-hmm.
and that has increased vastly in frequency since the turbine has turned up, and that is like.
Can you describe that? I know what you mean, but can you describe what it is?
I will, and because I have put a lot of thought into that and talked to my physician about that. I've gone to eye doctors, and it's like there's really nothing wrong with my eyes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's my physician, primary care physician, calls it migraine without the headache.
Yes,
And-
visual aura.
Right, and
Yes.
it's like flashing in my lights, in my eyes, and it's like I can have my eyes closed, and it's like looking through a kaleidoscope, and only bright flashes of light in there. And I can't read or anything when that's occurring. If I'm driving, it's extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And the remedy for it is to lie down for a period of time, and it'll be mainly the blurry vision, and I think some nausea goes with that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just, it's a very weird thing.
So how often is that happening?
A couple of times a week would be a normal average right now for that.
And over the course of the 18 months, what has it done in terms of how often, how intense, what conditions?
Of having that spectra fortification.
Yeah.
No, I would say over that 18 months, that too, it has increased in frequency to now it's probably that couple of times a week.
Okay.
But it used to be, if I would have one of those attacks, I'll call it, a couple a year would be about all I would have
Before
before the
turbines.
advent of the wind turbine, right?
you would get those several times a year,
Not more than several times a year.
maybe twice a year.
Yet I actually had them more when I was in like high school and I grew up on a farm and working out in intense heat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that would seem to bring them on. And I never knew until the last couple of years now, and as I was getting them more frequently and had talked to my physician about it and had gone to the eye doctor, that I mentioned it to my mother, and she says, "Oh yes, I've gotten those throughout my life, and your grandmother too, and one of my brothers also gets them." And I had never known that before
Yeah,
talking to my mother.
yeah. So you had them more frequently as a teen, and then it declined to
Hardly
year
ever
month.
for a large period of my life, and to the greatest frequency by far is now.
Okay. And do you sometimes get the headache near those or during them, or are the headaches and
Well,
and the
headache,
separate?
the headaches seem to be a separate occurrence.
Okay. Were you motion sensitive as a child, or at any point, like getting car sick or seasick?
Not as a child, I never was. I was in Vietnam, and I was there for 19 months in 1968 and 1969,
Mm-hmm.
and I flew as a crew member on combat Hueys,
Mm-hmm.
and I flew as a gunner,
Mm-hmm.
and I never once got motion sickness, and we had you talk about flying at like treetop level, and it was like it'd be a good ride at like Six Flags of Texas or something like that. But many people did get air sick, but I never was subjected to that.
What about your hearing? Since then, you had significant noise exposure then with a helicopter and.
Well, firing an
artillery.
M60 machine gun at
Yeah.
450 rounds a minute,
Mm-hmm.
considerable noise exposure.
Yeah. So what has your hearing been like over the years since then?
Well, my wife thinks that I don't hear that well, but I've had my hearing checked, and it checks out fine.
Have you had tinnitus, ringing in your ears?
I have, and that too is only in recent, I would say within the last 2 months is the first time I ever knew what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And and it seemed to be, I think, only in my right ear where I really noticed, but now I know what that is too. So, but more than that, it's like I have trouble telling how loud I'm speaking because it feels like my head is full or under pressure or something, and it's like right in my ears. It's like where they seem pressurized or something, and that would be somewhat similar to flying, where but my ears don't ever pop. It's like I can't clear that out.
And how much of the time is that there?
So I think all the time now.
Okay. And when you leave the Cape, leave the area?
That I don't know, because this too, it's like, it seems to be a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've left since I've been experiencing this.
So in the last couple of months?
Couple of months, yeah.
Okay. So the ringing and the pressure in your ears are both a new thing in the last few
I would
months?
say that, yes.
Okay. And the headaches, you said, were a new thing?
Right,
Same time frame?
same time frame, right.
Okay. And have you had that checked out by your doctor?
I haven't. It's like, I think I'm taking 12 prescriptions now, and antidepressants, and
Okay.
medications for high blood pressure, and a Telenol for palpitations, a beta blocker that
Yeah.
is, and I like to keep my panic attacks under control. And it's like, you know, I've asked like, well, how many medications is too many? And you know, my physician also said though that you have to move away, that I have to move away from that turbine. And which was interesting, I thought, because in looking through your book, Wind Turbine Syndrome, you mentioned that the prescription is easy. You know, either move the turbine or move away from it. But it's like, to me, that would be, you know, giving it, it's either fight or flight, and I'm not about to move. We've lived there 31 years, and that's our home.
Yeah. And there's the counterpart of that, if people need to move, if they won't turn off the turbines, then they should be compensated fully for the value of their home so they can start.
Well, I don't want to start
else.
over. It's like, I'm 65, and
this is
my
your
starting
home.
over days, I don't want to do that. Our grandkids live 1/2 mile away,
Yeah.
and it's a great place to live. We know people, and you know, we live there. There's only one other family in our community, one other couple that has lived there longer than we have, and we like it there.
Yeah.
And I have, in my woodland garden, which I started before we actually moved into the place, and I built the first home and everything about it. And that home was lost to fire in 2000, and we rebuilt like dream home number 2. And we're not giving up easily. And I'm willing to sacrifice some health, which I think will be temporarily. I'm an optimistic person, and I'm willing to fight for our rights, and that's what I'm doing.
Great. So, were you taking any medications before?
I was, and I actually was, my PTSD was diagnosed in 2003, and prior to that, I was not a great person.
Do you mind talking about your PTSD symptoms?
No, I'll talk about it. And but that's when I always thought it was just something wrong with me. And my wife and I were going to a marriage counselor in 2003, and she had a brother who had been in Vietnam, who had been diagnosed with PTSD, is how she recognized me as having those symptoms. So she recommended that I see a psychiatrist at the VA hospital. So I made that appointment, and slowly but surely, you know, I took every bit of treatment that they had to offer, like the weekly individual counseling and group counseling, the medications, and seeing a psychiatrist on a regular basis. And it's like been wonderful, really. You know, the first couple of years was extremely hard, and it's like you don't know which symptom to really tackle first, you kind of like get messed up sometimes, and it's like, you know, drinking was a big problem, and a lot of the counselors would think, oh, you got to take care of that first, but that didn't work out, so we tackled some other things and worked on depression, and but eventually, after probably 3 or 4 years, it's like I was really a changed person, and I had pretty much tackled all of those symptoms and problems, and I know my wife would vouch for me on that. And it's like, they gave me a new life, is what it was.
So were you having sleep problems?
I had nightmares
Flashbacks?
all the time and flashbacks, and but
And like hyper alert?
hyper alertness, right? And then the thing is now, it's that most of I don't have the dreams now, but my dreams slowly change. It's like a weird thing, and there's like special therapy for even working on your dreams, where you are able to, or I was anyway, not every veteran I know has been able to get rid of their nightmares, unfortunately, but I was able to.
Wow.
And so I like got out of that grip of a lot of the severity, or the most severe things of the PTSD. But it doesn't ever, you can't be cured from it. It just, you manage your symptoms. Well, my management like went out the window with the startup, and through the time now with the turbine, it's just, I just went to pot, you could say, and I don't use drugs, but alcohol came back, and which is a severe problem in itself.
How do the feelings you get, the anxiety in the anxiety center and the vibration, how does that compare to the PTSD? And how do they interact with each other? Are they different types of feelings? Are they similar feelings? Do they?
Well, I'd had panic attacks before with the PTSD, and now there are really like two types of panic attacks I can identify. One is the old type, where I am like break out in a sweat and I have extremely high heart rate, might be 175, 180, and I'm really immobilized, where I just have to either just sit in a chair and I'm unable to do anything, and until it passes, which can take an extremely long time.
Like how long?
Well, as the one recent one that I mentioned was 3 hours to get down to 138 heartbeat from 170, and that's pretty long. But another type is where it's just I can't stand being around any people, and it's just like I'm not having the I'm not having the rapid heartbeat, but it's just like I'm still having the sweats, and I just don't want to see anyone. I'll just like leave home and won't tell my wife, or we'll be at someone's house and I'll just leave, and I can't stand talking to anyone, and that type of thing is it's just this feeling I have in me that I don't want to see or talk to anyone.
And which is the old kind?
The old kind would be with the palpitations and the immobilization.
And which one has the anxiety center that your wife has to rub?
Well, that would be, I think both have that. And that's something I have about all the time right now. And you can rub my anxiety center tonight.
So it's there all the time, even when you're not having a panic attack?
It's not always the same intensity, but it's like I just feel it all the time.
Can you describe what you're feeling right now?
Well, it would just be, there's kind of like a tingling in there, where it's like, a pretty large area, like 10, 11 inch diameter area, where it's just something is not right in there. It's like, I don't know, like my heart's gonna blow up or something. It's just, I don't know. So just a weird feeling.
And how does it change over time?
Well, it'll go from like neutral, which would be like now, not so bad, to getting extremely bad.
Have you do these symptoms, they have any relationship with wind direction, wind speed?
The turbine bothers me pretty much all the time. Like now it's just looking at it like can drive me over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But noise-wise, and here is another thing that is maddening to me, and that's that like the state of Massachusetts has the 10 decibels over ambient noise ordinance, which is like so outdated. They came up with that ordinance in September of 1972.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, with like lobbying from industry and so forth, that's too high of a number. But for wind turbines, where the sound has its own characteristics and this some kind of beat in there, I'm not getting into this low frequency thing and all that, because to me, all the sound studies are a bunch of junk.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, talk to me and talk to these other people who are bothered,
Mm-hmm.
and use us for measurement tools or something. You know, it's like, that's what I think should be, who are you bothering and how are the people being bothered?
Mm-hmm.
Or use goats or something, I don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
But to come up with like arbitrary numbers and say, oh, you can't be feeling bad, it's like we're meeting the ordinance here. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, to me, that is just absolute ridiculous.
So, what medicines have been added?
Well, it would be more of an increase in like the
Doses?
the doses that I'm taking, and back on like naltrexone
Mm-hmm.
for to reduce alcohol cravings, and
Mm-hmm.
Topamax I also take for to reduce alcohol cravings, and
Mm-hmm.
I was totally off of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you'd taken that before and then gotten off it?
Right,
Like taking it when you started treatment for the PTSD?
Right.
And then it had been tapered off?
right. But the also like bupropion and citalopram, I'm on both of those, and those doses have been increased.
Mm-hmm. And you said you were on atenolol
Right,
and another blood pressure medicine?
losartan.
Does the atenolol help at all with
That's my,
the high
I
heart
think
rate?
out of all of them, that's the one that helps me the most, that I can tell. Like if I don't take that, it's like I am out of control.
Mhm.
My heart rate is out of control.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about the turbines before they turned on?
Well, I was very much involved. It started with getting a questionnaire from the town, the energy committee that had been started in the town of Falmouth,
Mm-hmm.
well before the construction ever began.
Mm-hmm.
And that questionnaire consisted of, a number of different categories of concern, like noise, flight patterns of birds and geese, and the flight pattern of the geese, that was one I was concerned about, because every morning and evening we had the geese fly over our house right through that area where the turbine was put, going from West Falmouth Harbor and back between the town disposal area and West Falmouth Harbor. And I was, I'm going to lose that, because growing up in the Midwest, we lived in the Midwest Flyway, and it was like, I just loved that. The geese coming over reminded me of back home.
Mm-hmm.
And another one was noise,
Mm-hmm.
and because there again, it's like, I know how sensitive I am to noise from the PTSD, really, and anything to do with a helicopter sound or that type of thing. I'm forgetting some of the other, I think groundwater was on there, but, you know, I was pretty much concerned about everything. And with my questionnaire, I enclosed a letter, like page and a half or 2-page letter of, you know, really compounding on just their check boxes on there. So when the impact statement came out, 58-page impact statement came out, which I never saw until after the turbine was constructed and bothering me. To me, it read like, oh, the noise should not bother, and for all these different reasons, but there really was no study done or anything. It was like, if there is a problem, we'll get rid of it, you know, after the fact. And they did mention my letter. They said they had gotten that 7 responses were returned out of the, like, I forget how many they said they sent out. Well, there's hardly an abutter that I know that remembers ever getting the questionnaire. But they only got 7 back. Well, mine and my one neighbor, we kind of filled the thing out together. That was 2 of them. And that the only attached letter they got was mine, which they said was in Appendix F or J or whatever in the impact study. But in the copy of the impact statement I got offline, that my letter wasn't in there. I still have a copy of it, which I sent to the selectmen and the health board. But in hindsight, looking at this, their information on building this turbine, it was like they were proposing a 660 kilowatt turbine. And I went on the bus tour they offered to see one like they were proposing to build. The bait and switch thing happened where it ended up being 2 1.65 megawatt turbines. And but when I was at Hall, it was like the thing was seemingly quiet. And it was at that point where, well, this thing doesn't make any noise, so I put my fears were put to rest, and I didn't pay any attention after that.
Have you had dizziness with all this?
The dizziness would be along with the spectra fortification. Otherwise, I don't have any dizzy spells or anything.
Any nausea with that?
I do have a lot of stomach problems.
What kind of stomach problems?
Well, just upset stomach and nervousness, and it kind of goes together. And I take, I forget the name, it's OPs.
Omeprazole?
That's it.
Okay, Provocet.
Twice a day I take that.
Okay. So what about before the turbines? Did you have stomach problems then?
I had some earlier on, but I don't think I did right at that point. You know, earlier on with the some years before that. But this was like a reawakening of all my problems when, over time now, since the 18 months that this thing has been operating.
What about your concentration?
That's one of the worst things, really. It's like in trying to work out in my yard, and that was one of the first things I found that was like totally shot. And that was, you can't concentrate. When that noise is going on, it's like, it's impossible to concentrate about anything else. And like when you're working in a garden, that's like, what are you out there for? It isn't like you're really, it isn't like work. It's like you're enjoying nature and you're like thinking about all these wonderful things, and you're like planning your garden and thinking about the future, and maybe about what your things you're planting, what they're going to turn into and bloom later on. Well, that's all thrown out the window when you have a whoop 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 in the background that it takes it takes nature away.
Because you can't go out and you can't really think about what you're doing when you're out there.
Well, right, but and then it carries into, because I get so perturbed from being like chased back into the house, it like goes along with me, the frustrations and the anxieties. It's like, it doesn't just go away when I, then I probably holler at my wife when I go in the house, and it's like, things aren't good.
You said you thought about suicide?
Yes,
Have you made plans?
I have, yeah. But to me, that is nothing new. Before my PTSD was ever diagnosed, it was like a real, regular thing. So, it's like, I know all about that. But that too, that was something that had gone away, and my thoughts were all about the grandkids and traveling.
Yeah.
And life, like I said, I found a new life. And that was like shattered by the wind turbine.
Yeah. Pulled you right back into all those things. Do you have any idea about, in terms of like monetary cost to you so far, in terms of extra time away from home, estimates about house value, cost to you of doing different things either to your house or for medication, just like what this has cost you in financial terms?
It would be, it's like, because I'm covered by the VA 100%, I have the feeling that the town should be paying, not the federal government. I don't think it's fair, in that respect, but it hasn't cost me in that way, other than a heck of a lot of trips to Providence, Rhode Island, which takes, just like a round trip is over 3 hours. And the time put into fighting the turbines would be incredible. It's like, most weeks it's like more than people would put into a full-time job.
But you haven't done anything to alter your house or anything?
No, well, it's like pointless, really, because it's outside. I can't do anything to alter the outside. And then proponents will say, well, wear sound attenuators, or get yourself a good iPod with noise-canceling headaches. I wonder how many of them play with their grandkids with that equipment on.
I'm Dr. Nina Pierpont. It's September 10th, 2011, and I'm here in Falmouth with Mrs. Diane Funfar to talk about her experiences and her family's with the wind turbines. Welcome. Can you tell me how old you are?
I'm 64.
And your husband Barry, how old is he?
He is 64 also.
Okay. Can you tell me if you've had any symptoms yourself, what those are, and just what your experience has been personally with the turbines?
I haven't experienced any health problems personally, but I've watched Barry go from a calm, relaxed person who liked to work in his yard to nervous and anxious, and he's been treated for PTSD, and he was coming along great, going to his counselor every week, and now he's a completely different person. So for me, that's the hard thing, to have watched what happened to him and to have to live with him now.
So you yourself, is your sleep the same as it was?
My sleep's the same, yes.
You-
Our bedroom's not on the turbine side. Luckily, we're on the other side. And we always sleep with a noise machine. So I have not lost sleep because of it.
Do you feel well rested in the morning?
Yes.
And have you had any headaches?
No.
Any feelings in your ears like pressure or pain?
No.
And any ringing in your ears?
No.
Any mood changes in yourself?
Not really, except we have a beautiful rooftop deck. And I used to like to go up there and just sit, and there's a beautiful view of Buzzards Bay and Old Silver Beach. But now it's been so totally spoiled up there because there's 4 giant wind turbines that look like they're in our yard. So I don't go up there.
So you don't like the look of them?
Right.
Okay. And any sense of pressure and vibration that you notice at any times?
No.
Your motivation and energy, how is that the same as it was before?
Yes, I really haven't had any physical or emotional symptoms.
That's wonderful. Anything like palpitations, increased heart rate, blood pressure changes?
No.
Any changes in weight?
No.
Okay, that's wonderful. Just, can you give me a little sense of your basic medical state? Do you have any?
I have high blood pressure, but I had it before, so, and I'm on medication, so.
And that hasn't had to change?
No, not since the turbines have been up.
Okay. Have you ever had migraines?
No.
And were you ever motion sensitive, like car sick as a child, seasick?
No.
And have you ever had any problem with your hearing?
No.
Or any exposure to industrial noise?
No.
Or really loud noise on a long-term basis?
No.
Nothing like that.
No.
I understand you've been a teacher for many
Right,
years.
I taught for 31 years, 25 in Falmouth, and I loved Falmouth. I loved the town, and I thought the people were so friendly. And
Mm-hmm.
for 22 years, another teacher and I ran we're advisors to the Key Club, where we did community service, and people in the town would call us up and say they need kids to help with this project or that project. And I just thought we had such a great town.
Mm-hmm.
And now to see what the town has done to us
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't care, I mean, it's very disheartening.
Can you tell me what you thought about the turbines, your attitude toward them before they started running?
I wasn't happy that they were putting them in that, where they were placing them. But Barry did go to all the meetings and, the trip up to Hull, and we were assured that we would not be bothered by them. I wasn't happy they were putting them there because of the visual pollution, but
Mhm.
never did I think it was going to affect people like it has.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm angry at the town. I'm angry that they tricked us all,
Mm-hmm.
and caused problems for so many people. And it's like they don't care. They say they care, but if they cared, they would turn them off
Yeah,
until they come up with a solution.
yeah. Can you tell me what you've seen in Barry since this happened? And some things about the past as well, and when you go away, when the turbines are at different degrees of noise or speed?
Well, he's like he said, he's gone back to almost like he was back before he started getting treatment for his PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets angry. He's angry at the turbines, but he'll probably yell at me or get angry at our son, or and that's, he was over that. He was over that. He was like relaxed, and enjoyed the yard. Our yard is all overgrown because he hasn't been out there, and that was his first love. When he was working, he worked lots of hours a day, more than the 8 or 10, and he worked weekends, but he relaxed by going out and picking weeds and planting, and that was his relaxation, and now he can't do that. When we go away on vacation, he's usually much more relaxed. But again, like he said, the people are always calling him for advice, and he feels like he wants to help other people in other towns that ask him for advice, and so he's become kind of addicted to the internet, to his email, and it's hard to get him off the computer. And then he's inside with the windows shut, so
All day long?
most of the time, yeah.
Do you go out places locally? Or out of the house to do things?
Out to dinner.
Uh-huh. But otherwise, unless you go away, you're pretty much at home,
Yeah.
and he's at home.
I go out. All summer I went to the beach, or my son's house is in Mashpee on a lake.
Mm-hmm.
So I get out a lot, but he's home a lot.
He wouldn't go with you.
He does once in a while, but not like me.
Yeah. So even to go away, and it just sounds like depression. Just
Yeah.
a lot of depression. I never asked Barry what he did during the years between Vietnam and retirement.
We started out in Minneapolis, and he worked at a warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
which he did not like. He worked nights.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad, who lived in Falmouth,
Mm-hmm.
had a carpet cleaning business,
Mhm.
and he was getting ready to retire, and I had no brothers, so he had no sons. He asked Barry if he wanted to take over the carpet cleaning business, so we moved out here in 1979,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what he did until he retired.